October 23rd PSTA Finance Committee meeting. I am going to call this meeting to order. It is 9 a.m. I am Dan Saraki, your committee chair representing the city of Oldsmar. Let's go around the room and introduce the other PSTA board members. I want to start with you, Dave.
Dave Eggers, Pinellas County Commissioner.
Tom Reed, Commissioner, City of South Pasadena.
Good morning, I'm Brad Miller, I'm the CEO of PSTA, and just those who are watching, we are down here in the boardroom because the hurricanes knocked out all of our elevators for now, so we'll be downstairs on the first floor.
All right, so here we go. Thank you, Brad. First item on our agenda is the public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to us, public comment? With that, I will close public comment. First action item is 3A, approve the September 18th, 2024 minutes. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
I have a motion and
A second.
a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is 3B, armored car contract. Debbie Leas, our CFO, will go over the new contract for armored car services. Debbie, you have the floor.
I feel like I should be a game show host, just kind of walk the audience with this. But good morning, everyone, and I'm glad everyone's been able to make it here post-hurricanes. And today our action item is about armored car services. Currently, PSTA uses armored car services to pick up money that comes off the buses and from our terminals, both here at PSTA and out at each of our customer service areas, or our customer service terminals. As we were approaching the end of the contract that we currently have, a couple things happened. I've got 3 people out in our revenue room, and one person retired and one person voluntarily left. So I figured this was a great opportunity to see if I could outsource the revenue room and save money. So I know how much I was paying my 2 people. I put that into the budget for outsourcing in addition to our regular service. We went out for RFP for our regular service that we normally have, plus an optional service for whoever the vendor would be to actually count the cash, do what we do, which is basically unfolding it, straightening it out, counting it, bundling it, counting the coins. What we discovered when we got the results back, and we only had one bidder, there's only a couple vendors in this area that can do this service. Most people are in other states and all that who looked at downloading. So when we got the responses back, I was shocked at how much it was going to cost to outsource. So we met with the vendor, we were able to get them down in price for the first year, but then it escalated. And it is actually much less expensive for me I lost 2 people, but to just hire one, still save money in our budget, because the outsourcing piece would have cost me over $200,000 more over the life of the contract. Now, I think that's probably because this isn't their main focus of their business in armored car services. They're used to just coming and picking up and taking it to a location. In our case, it goes to a Brinks location where it gets actually recounted again and I learned a lot with this. It was a lot of fun for me. It goes in a vault for our bank which is Synovus Bank. So right now my recommendation is to go with Mid-Florida Armored Car and ATM Company to do just the regular pickups that they normally do today. Their costs have increased by about 5% per pickup, from $500 to $525 in the first year. However, I'm actually costing less in my budget because instead of having cash picked up 5 days a week, I'm only having it done 3 days a week. So I'm finding ways of saving money through efficiencies. We're also getting a lot less cash than we used to with our Flamingo products and with the debit and credit cards. So my recommendation in the action item before you today is to approve a 1-year contract with 4 one-year renewals with for armored car services with Mid-Florida Armored and ATM Services, Inc., for a total contract amount not to exceed $200,000 and to authorize the CEO to exercise the 4 one-year options. Are there any questions?
Any
I have
questions?
one.
Oh, go ahead.
Maybe you answered it, but it says here on the action item on the document, the best and final offer for these optional services was significantly over our, and it just says, that's it, it just tails off, over our what?
Oh, over our budget. Yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't the most up-to-date, I apologize, version, but it was significantly over our budget. We had budgeted, hold on, let me give you exact dollars here. So we had budgeted a total for the first year of this contract, $158,660. Of that, approximately $125,000 was for the optional services. Again, the optional services for the very first year, we negotiated it down to almost that 125 to 129, but then it jumped to like 174, 179, all the way up to $190,000. So significantly way over. So you don't know if something's going to work till you try it. We tried it. The vendor was excellent to work with. They really tried very hard to get this down, but they would have to hire additional people. They felt there'd be additional trips over the Howard Franklin. It just wasn't cost effective.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, appreciate your fiscal caution on all of this. Just for clarity, so it's $200,000 more over the life, that's what you're saving?
Right, to outsource it, it would cost us over $200,000 more, matter of fact, about $209,000 more.
Okay, outsourcing it completely, the whole
Completely.
service?
Yeah.
And that's about $40,000 a year?
Yep, it goes up significantly. The first year, we were only about $5,500 over budget if we were to do it, but then it goes up to, 47, 49, 52, 54,000.
So you're gonna end up keeping one of the two people,
We'll keep one of the 2 positions,
and it's still cheaper than,
and it's still, I will be saving money in this budget year.
yay, good for
There we
you.
go.
Good job, Deb. Great presentation. I need a
Thank
motion
you.
for approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great job. Thanks, Deb. Next, we have employee uniform contract. Greg, PSTA's Director of Transportation, will talk about this new contract for our PSTA employee uniforms.
Good morning, committee members. Greg Bracken, Director of Transportation. I'm here this morning. The proposed action item is to approve a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for uniforms with North American Fire Company, Fire Equipment Company Incorporated, commonly known as NAFCO, for a total amount not to exceed $660,000, and to authorize the CEO to exercise the 3-year, 1-year options. PSTA has bargaining unit uniforms that are notoriously provided in their contract language, and this is just a renewal of that extended contract. NAFCO has been our premium provider for quite a few years. We did go out for an RFP. They did compete with another provider, and NAFCO was the winning bid again. The uniform pricing is contracted out in our labor contract, so it's very specific per employee. So we have a pretty good feel of the dollar amount that we're asking. The proposals were graded. They went out on DemandStar. Everything was done properly. The scores are on your second page there, how they came in. NAFCO was the definite winner by quite a few points. We did a responsibility check, and NAFCO is a reputable company and able to supply our needs. It is coming out of our operational funds, so everything is budgeted. And so we're coming to you for a recommendation to approve a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for the uniforms from North American Fire Equipment Company Incorporated, commonly known as NAFCO, for a total contract not to exceed $660,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options.
Thank you very much. Great job. Any questions for Greg? Dave?
Yeah, so on the committee, you had, who were the folks that reviewed?
Myself, my administrative assistant who controls the uniform purchases, and David, who was our third? Shelby. Shelby Harris, my superintendendent. So we had three of the people
Superintendent of,
of transportation.
okay, perfect. So that, you got that input from some of our folks.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Any questions, Tom?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good too. Thank you, Greg. Great presentation. I'm looking for a motion for approval for the contract.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, and a second, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Towing, 3D is towing services contract. Henry Lukasik, PSTA's Director of Maintenance, will take us through this new contract for bus towing services. Good morning, Henry.
Morning, sir. So historically, and I think honestly in PSDA's history, we've always outsourced the towing of our buses and other vehicles simply because we can do a lot of things well in the maintenance department, but it is not in our wheelhouse to be towing heavy vehicles, and of course, we don't have the equipment and training and the insurance to do so. Our current contract with our provider has expired. The purchasing department put out an RFP for towing services. First of all, this is going to be recommending approval for a 2-year contract with 3-year, one-year options, total 5 years, with RRI Incorporated, also known as Yo-Ho's Towing, for an amount not to exceed $300,000. Purchasing put out an RFP. We received a couple interested parties. We received one proposal. Now, that's not really surprising given the specialty of this type of towing. So when we look at towing, we see lots of people who can tow automobiles and stuff like that. When we get into the heavy haulers, that number of folks really drops dramatically as to who can do that. So, you know, the ability to tow these heavy vehicles, the specialized equipment, response time was key here for our services, and of course, seeing if there was a local presence. I can tell you that the incumbent was the sole proposal that was received, that is Yo-Ho's Towing. They've also been our towing contractor for the better half of 15 years. They do an excellent job. Valuation committee scored them. After responsibility check, they were found to be able to perform the work and eligible for award. We looked at their pricing that was submitted for over the full 5 years. We found it to be fair and reasonable and in line with what our expectations were. So again, we're looking to recommend approval of a 2-year contract and 3-year, 1-year options with Yo-Ho's Towing for a total contract amount not to exceed $300,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3-year options, and this is budgeted annually in the maintenance department operating funds.
Thank you. Any questions for Henry?
Just real quick.
Go ahead.
Henry, so that's a fixed number regardless of how many tows we get? It looks like we get about 15 a month, more or less. Is that?
So for the purposes of receiving pricing, we estimated that on average each year there's 185 tows. We only pay for the tows that we need.
Okay. So then if it goes over that, we pay a little bit more on the contract?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Tom?
All good? Thanks, Henry.
I'm good too. Thank you for that. I'm looking to entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I got a motion. Second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is 3E, electric bus purchase. Debbie, you have the floor again. She is back. The first action item is to review the proposal to purchase one additional replacement bus using the grant funds we received this summer. Debbie, you have the floor.
All right, well, thank you. As you might recall, in July, we received a competitive discretionary grant called a Low-No grant, which is for zero emission buses and low emission buses. And what we brought to you in August was an action item to buy 12 electric buses and 9 hybrid buses. That was an increase over what we had originally anticipated in the grant. When we did that, we worked with FTA and found that we still had grant money out of this competitive grant that we won on the table. And you know me, I don't like to give money back. Not only do I not like to give money back, FTA does not like to have you give money back. And the reason being is they have to look good in what they do. They want us to use the funds and use them appropriately. And that keeps us going forward when we put in these discretionary grants at the top of their list. As you know, we've been very successful. So when we worked with them, we had money left on the table, and FTA recommended that we get one more electric bus. And in doing so, we actually reduced how much money PSTA had to match in this grant. And by buying one more electric bus, I use up all the money in the grant, and I save us $237,921 of PSTA money. So the recommendation today, based on this, is to utilize all of the grant funds, buy one more electric bus, so we'll now be having 22, and these are all replacement buses, 22 replacement buses out of this grant, and save us over $237,000. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Dave?
So, I know Henry can probably answer these questions. We've just gone through, two little beauties with all kinds of stories about buses, all kinds of stories about batteries and issues like that. So tell me a little bit about these batteries, how they're different, where they're located on a bus, and how vulnerable we are to those kinds of things that we just ran into.
Those are all excellent questions, and obviously I've also seen the videos, and this is definitely a topic that's worth discussion. So first thing I'm going to start off by saying is that there is a significant difference between a bus that you see and a automobile. I mean, simply if you look at the cost between the two, there's a lot more that goes into it. First and foremost, when it comes to where are the batteries located on the bus? Well, mostly they are located on the rooftop. So in reference, the bus is 11 feet tall, 6 inches. Most of them live on that roof. In fact, this is a great picture. You can kind of see at the rooftop, there's this nice flaring up there. That's where they mostly live. There's a few other batteries that live in what was formerly the engine compartment, and that's approximately 6 feet off the ground. And then there's 2 battery packs as to where the fuel tank would normally have been in the undercarriage, and that's about 2 feet off the ground. Now, what differentiates the batteries on a bus as opposed to a car? First and foremost, it's very tough to get information as to how these electric vehicles are made. Most of it is confidential, patented, proprietary. I've never taken apart a Tesla before, okay? However, here's the fundamental differences. On each bus, there are 7 battery packs. Each one is enclosed in a heavy stainless steel enclosure, and it's sealed. When it's manufactured, it is vacuum tested. So you think of all the components in this big steel box. They pull a vacuum on it and pressure test it to make sure that it doesn't leak. Each one of those battery packs is rated to be submerged in over 3 feet of water, any type of water, without leaking. And that's the testing that it goes through.
Any type of water, you said?
Any type of water, fresh water, salt water.
So it's done all that testing?
All that testing. Each battery pack is rated to be submerged under 3 feet of water without leaking. Now, each battery pack is vented, obviously, but there is a one-way vent known as a davit valve. Stuff can go out of the battery, it cannot go in the battery, and that's where that submersion test comes from. Also, part of each of that testing is that it must be salt sprayed for a significant number of hours to look for any types of corrosion, but before it passes those tests. Now, we, out of habit, okay, have no plans to submerge our buses in water. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from, which is you submerge a vehicle in water, an EV vehicle, that obviously there's going to be problems with that. I also want to point out that it doesn't really matter what the battery chemistry is, okay? It could be lead acid, which is typically in your car as a car battery. It could be lithium ion. What's happening is when they talk about the salt, and this is why this is key. Salt is a conductor of electricity. So when something floods and the water evaporates, the salt crystals that remain can actually form a connection between 2 points of a battery, negative and positive. And when you connect those two, you make an electrical connection. For everything that I mentioned above, as is typical standard practice for us, and we've done this over the years, when we feel that here at our location cannot stand the potential storm inundation of our property, we will relocate our entire fleet to higher grounds, about 110 feet above sea level. And we did that for this last Hurricane Milton. We did it during Ian, and of course we did it during Irma. So that's our standard hurricane SOP. Further instances of battery safety features on our buses. Some of this is a little kind of in the weeds. I've made some notes, but I also want to make sure that I get them out there. One of the fundamental differences of the way these battery packs are constructed is that each battery pack is made up of individual battery cells. Cells make a pack. Each of these cells is constructed in such a way, they're all surrounded by a special flame retardant epoxy sealant. They're all separated from each other. Now what happens is when a battery, it's called thermal runaway. When you see a fire, that's actually everything else that is catching on fire that's flammable. Battery, the proper term is thermal runaway. These cells are separated from themselves in such a way where if a thermal runaway did happen, it's designed to self-extinguish itself. So if you have a cell that gets hot, that it is designed to basically self-extinguish itself. The liquid coolant that keeps the batteries cool during normal operation is flame retardant. And then once that cell's energy is exhausted, that basically that energy or that heat will not go to another cell. So you don't have this chain reaction between cells. So that's also an important safety feature. Each cell in a battery, okay, is designed to act like a fuse. They're all connected together by little thin wires. And if any one of them detects any type of short circuit, it's like a fuse in your car. It burns. And then that shuts down the high voltage system so that it can't jump from back to back to back to back. And then, of course, the other concern is that should a vehicle ever get into an accident, that these battery packs have been crushed in testing by over 200 pounds of force, and they're able to withstand that type of inundation, okay, of the battery cell without a cause of thermal runaway. Hopefully I didn't get too far into the weeds.
I asked, so.
I know. I have a lot of other things. Now, all that I mentioned before is what is known as passive safety features, right? They're there, okay? They exist. Doesn't involve much human interaction. I want to throw one other piece to that, and there's active safety. So active safety means all of the sensors, all of the probes, everything that is monitoring these battery cells that we monitor right now. I've got a group of staff over there right now that monitor the health check of every single vehicle. So those are the computer systems on the buses. Over the years, you've heard me refer to the battery management system, or the BMS for short. So these all talk to the vehicle. The vehicle talks back to us through telematics. We can call up any vehicle, look at it right now and say, how are you doing today? Not like in a chat GPT type thing, but we can look at all of the voltages, the heat sensors. Just to put it into perspective, there are over 270 voltage probes on one bus. There are over 126 temperature sensors. I want to commend Gillig because I realize there's other bus manufacturers out there, and sometimes all the bus manufacturers get lumped together. I know of one such one that has made the news. But I want to commend Gillig because, number one, they take safety very seriously at Gillig. It's one of the more conservative bus manufacturers out there. They were not the first to the market with an electric bus. They were actually one of the last. So that's how long they took to develop it. Number three, when it comes to these active monitoring systems, they are very strict in the parameters as to the deviation outside what they consider normal operation. So anytime there is a hiccup, we're able to see it and we're able to look at it quickly. I say hiccup not in a negative point, it's just that's how strict their tolerances are. I have a lot more that I could talk about, but I'd be happy to answer any other.
No, I do appreciate the comments, and, you know, maybe at the board meeting, so for the others, just to get a sense of that, because we talk about having a good mix in our bus fleet that balances all of that, so that we're not overly dependent on one or the other. I'm assuming that the electric buses and the hybrid are similar in terms of the safety features that you were talking about.
Yes.
The battery that is about 2 feet above, is that also lithium-based
Yes.
batteries?
The official chemistry is lithium, ion, nickel, manganese, cobalt.
I don't know what all that other stuff means, but I know that the lithium batteries are the ones that we've heard about having the
Yes.
problem. So I'm assuming from a maintenance standpoint, that's an area, because when they get out on the roads afterwards and the waters are down, there's still a lot of salt water, perhaps like we did with Helene. Do we just have a way to check those things after runs and all that?
We do.
Okay.
They go through our bus wash every night.
Okay.
And again, it's just the components that go into the stainless steel. Everything is corrosion resistant materials.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate the explanation, thank you, Chair.
Questions, Tom?
No, I don't. I just think it's a great question that Commissioner Eggers asked, because here we are on one bus, whereas we're asking questions that we never would have thought to ask before, nor did we think to ask when we approved the initial order, because who foresaw what we had coming our way? So that's great. Appreciate your input, Henry. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, Henry, great presentation. Dave, thank you for that. I did not know that. Great information for us to understand, and I agree with Commissioner Eggers. Tell the rest of the board members that little presentation, because that was very informative.
Yeah.
Just one quick story. My home was out of power for 4 days. I was staying at a friend's house, and I told Brad, I texted him, I was heading back on McMullen Booth, and there was a whole fleet of buses coming out of the high school, heading back to PSTA, so.
That is our safe place.
It looked like there was a big fleet. I think there was 20 or 30. They were just going.
All 200 of our buses were up there.
Yeah.
That's why we got calls, no.
Henry, great presentation. Thank you so much. Anything else, Deb? Are you all set?
Just need to approve the action item.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Next is 3F, financial policies. Deb will now go over the changes to our PSTA financial policies.
thank you very much. This will be a little more dry compared to Bill Nye the Science Guy or Henry Lukacs. But every year, and we talked about this last month at the Finance Committee, every year I bring forward 3 policies for your review and approval and any updates. We have the reserve policy. Last month, we discussed the potential to increase it from a 2-month reserve to a 3-month based on the availability of funding. Now, when I take a look at our fiscal '25 budget, what that would mean is I would be increasing it by about $10.3 million. I don't have $10.3 million, but it's a great aspirational goal to be able to, over time, increase that, if that's the will of the committee. The second one is our debt liability management policy. We have no changes in that, nor do we have any debt here at PSTA, outside of the GASBs, Julie. Then we also have our investment policy. What changed this year in that is the state statutes have in there that we don't want to do business with foreign countries of concern. And those would be such countries as examples, People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the People's Republic of Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, et cetera. So that's the only change in that particular policy. So my recommendation today, and leave it open for discussion with you all, is to amend the reserve policy to increase up to the 3 months as funds become available. And then on the investment policy, we're required to be compliant with state statutes on the foreign countries of concern.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes.
So
Commissioner
that,
Eggers.
will that be reviewed at budget time so that when the board
We
makes a decision?
certainly can do that, yes. Yes,
All right.
we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I fought against it at the county levels going from 16.7% to 28.8%, only because we have so many other pockets of reserves at the county that you can tap on. And so in an emergency situation, much like we're doing now, we're fronting a lot of money out of our different reserve accounts, not even the operating reserve. So PSDA is different. I was asking the question, how many reserve accounts do we have? I guess we have 3.
We have, yes, we've got the insurance reserve account, which is based on the actuarial
Right.
recommendations, our capital reserve, and then we also have the 2 months of operating reserve.
So this is really the only operating reserve that we have, and so I would support the change and letting the board know each year that, like, for instance, this past budget, we decided to lower the millage rate. An option might have been, or could be, to put that into the reserve and up the reserve.
Great
So,
suggestion, yes.
I'm not saying I'm suggesting that, but that is what we could have done, correct? I mean,
Yes, it is.
That's to your point
Yes,
on
it
the
is.
policy. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Questions?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
I'm good. Thanks, Deb. I sound like Commissioner Eggers. Did you make a motion?
Yeah,
Oh, Brad, do you
that's
want to say something real quick?
Cool. No, I was just thinking, as you just said, about what the county was doing, I mean, these hurricanes have highlighted this. Same thing, we have been spending a lot of money on providing these extra services for the Emergency Operations Center and stuff, and so we're probably not gonna get reimbursed. We will get reimbursed. I have confidence someday by FEMA, and, but it's gonna take a while. So, I
Yeah.
mean, all the more reason to have a reserve.
Yeah, it does sometimes take 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
nothing like quick responses from the federal government, yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Make a motion?
Yeah.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is 3G, claim settlements. Diane Randall, PSTA Director of Risk Management, will take us through this final claim item. Diane,
Good morning.
welcome.
Thank you.
Morning.
Diane Randall, Director of Risk Management. I'm here this morning for an action item to obtain approval for 2 claim settlements with William Thompson and Barbara Thompson for $30,000 each. This accident occurred on April 27th, 2019. Mr. Thompson was driving a rental vehicle with his wife in the passenger seat with him, Barbara Thompson. Mr. Thompson slowed for a vehicle that was turning Our bus tried to stop, but was not able to stop in time, resulting in a rear-end collision. Mr. Thompson was 62 years old at the time of the accident, and he sustained injuries to his neck and left shoulder, resulting in costs of approximately $40,000. Mrs. Thompson was 60 years old at the time, and she sustained injuries to her neck, low back, right arm, left shoulder, and hip, and her medical expenses were approximately $63,500. These settlements are within the established claim file reserve, and both cases are in litigation, so settling will end all obligations. So my recommendation today is to approve claim settlements in the amount of $30,000 each with William Thompson and Barbara Thompson. I'll be happy to take any questions.
I was just critiquing the federal government for taking so long to pay. So this is a long time coming, right? 5 years?
Actually, in a litigated case, it's usually anywhere from 4 to 8 years.
Good grief.
Wow.
Just to get through the litigation process, it's a minimum of 3.
So it's not abnormal, it's just,
This is kind of average.
yes,
Yeah,
the business that we're in. Thank you.
the business of litigation.
Tom, you have a question?
No, it's been asked.
All right, I need a motion for approval. We're gonna move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Diane. Appreciate it very much. Next is reports. 4A, ridership performance. Devin Deal, PSCA's data manager, will now review the ridership trends through August. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Finance Committee. Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager. Oh, Debbie was right. This really does feel like a game show. So,
And use the remote mic.
oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Good grief.
Testing. Okay, great. So, good morning, Finance Committee. Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager. So for Commissioner McCann, I know this is your first presentation. We generally use this as an opportunity to address sometimes comments from the board meeting or the other committee meetings, or if there's something specific you would like to see a presentation on, on ridership and performance, this is where we would address that. So for this month, I'm giving a broad overview of our total system ridership. And so this graph right here is our system ridership by month, broken out by our different types of services. Obviously, the largest chunk of our services is our regular fixed route bus service. That is the blue bar. That's about 750 to 850,000 rides a month, sometimes a little higher during the spring break period. We have our Jolly Trolley services in red. Those are our Jolly Trolley Coastal, South Beach, North Beach, and Clearwater. Those are about 25 to 35,000 rides a month. They do jump up to around 50,000 during the spring break period at their peaks. And then the little yellow sliver that you might be able to see there is the Looper. That's the downtown St. Petersburg trolley, carries around 4,000 to 7,000 rides a month, varying kind of seasonally. And then the larger gray box that you see, that is our mobility services. That covers our PSTA access, our paratransit services, our mobility on demand services, our Uber and Lyft partnerships, things like that. That's about 50 to 60,000 rides a month and pretty steadily growing. And then you see the green bar at the top that popped in January. That is Vanpool that we took over from T-BARTA. That carries around 40,000 riders a month. One thing that you can see here a little bit is some of the seasonality, both with spring break and with school. You see that when you get to June and July, you typically see a drop-off from high points in March, April, May. So there is some regular seasonality in our service that we see. So this is focusing on our system fixed route ridership by month over the last 3 fiscal years. You see fiscal year 22 in green, fiscal year 23 in blue, and then fiscal year 24 in red. You do see at the start of fiscal year 24, our ridership began to drop a little bit. That coincides with whenever we began charging fares on the Sunrunner and the service reduction that went into effect in December. One other thing to point out is that August this year is the first time this year we've had 2 consecutive months where we exceeded last fiscal year's ridership. There is a reason for that. It's because in August last year, we had Hurricane Idalia. We lost 1.5 days of service or so. We're going to see the consequences of that in September and in October as our ridership comes in from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, as we did shut down several days of service. But still like to boast 2 consecutive months of a ridership increase over the previous fiscal year. And so to dig a little bit deeper into our fixed route services, the blue line that you see up top is our overall fixed route ridership, and then the stacked bar graphs at the bottom represent the ridership of our top 6 fixed routes. The bottom bar that you see in light blue, that is Route 4 that travels from Roy Hanna in South St. Petersburg on 4th Street through downtown, all the way up to the PSTA lay-by right outside. That carries around 55,000 passengers a month. The dark blue box that you see right above it is Route 18. That travels from Grand Central in St. Petersburg along Tyrone Boulevard up to Clearwater, carries around 55 to 60,000 passengers a month. Next in green, you see Route 34 that travels from Eckerd College in South St. Pete up 34th Street to Largo Transit Center, where on the south side of that route, we'll be instituting the Spark service in the coming years. That's about 65,000 rides a month. The gray box that you see, the next one, is our real workhorse route, the 52 and the 52LX. That travels from Grand Central in St. Petersburg along 49th Street up to Clearwater, and that's between 90,000 passengers a month. That is our highest ridership route consistently for several years. Next, you see the Suncoast Beach Trolley in red, and this route really highlights some of the seasonality of our service. It's 35 to 40,000 rides a month all year, except for when you get to March and April, and you see really strong jump in ridership. In March, it carried over 90,000 passengers. In April, it was around 80,000. And then the top golden box that you see is the Sunrunner. And you can see April and September, it was a little larger, and then coinciding with the fairs instituted in October, we did see a drop in ridership. We saw it start to rebound around February, and especially in March, and now we're around 70,000 rides a month on the Sunrunner. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Devin?
Yeah, it's great information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great presentation. I really improved. I love the colors. Yeah, I mean, it's inviting. Thank you. Great job. All right. Next is item 4B, August monthly financial report. Debbie Lupus, Director of Accounting, will walk us through. Welcome. Come on up.
Good morning, Julie Lupus, Director of Accounting. If you look at our August financials, we finished with 9.6 million net deficit, which was 2 million unfavorable to the budgeted deficit. Revenue was 2.4 million unfavorable to budget, driven by state grant revenue and federal grant revenue being under budget due to timing issues. Expenses are 381,000 favorable to budget, driven by insurance expense and salaries and fringes expense. If we turn to the August year-to-date financials, we finished with a 13.2 million net surplus, which was 4.5 million favorable to the budgeted surplus. Revenue is 93.8 thousand unfavorable to budget, with state and federal grant revenue driving that. Expenses are 4.5 million favorable to budget, with fringe benefits, service expenses, insurance expense all carrying that favorable variance. And I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Commissioner Eggerts?
Yeah, I was looking at the first page, and I was looking at operating revenues. Budget for August was 2.1 million, and we had minus 335,000 revenue. How does that happen? I was just trying to understand those numbers. The budget revenue was 2.1, and we made negative revenue. Is that?
Yes, there would be, I have to look up that answer, and I apologize.
Okay.
But that would be some sort of reclass, something being moved out of the revenue category into something else, and I can get you that information after this.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Debbie.
The grants kind of being in the red.
This timing difference.
It is a timing difference, and part of that timing is it's all on our federal grant side. With the change that we had for the millage rate, we've shifted some of those monies from the CARES Act monies into fiscal '25. So I will not be drawing down on that this year. I'll be drawing down on that actually in this probably coming month. So that helped us to balance anything out and to get.
All right, so the timing difference, actually, the deficit's a little bit lower than we anticipated.
So we'll, and then the month of September, we always have some interesting entries coming in the month of September for different things, so it gets a little wonky, very technical.
Wonky. I used a word oomph yesterday.
Well, there you go,
So
I'm not,
we're just using all kinds of different terms. Thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Any questions?
I'm good.
All right, Deb, thank you. Julie,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great job as always. Appreciate that very much. Next item is 4C PSTA contracts. Deb, you have the floor again. We'll briefly outline the PSTA contracts.
So in your packet is, and we do this every quarter, is the quarterly contracts report. It lists all the contracts that we have that are expenditure related, and there's nothing very new or exciting in here, but there is someone exciting in the room, and that would be with the departure of Al Burns, our highly motivated procurement director. We have the rock steady interim director, David Hensler.
David Hensler, I'm the interim procurement director. It's nice to meet you.
Welcome, Dave.
Yeah, he has been with us for a few years. He has learned so much. He'll be graduating our leadership PSTA program next month, and I think he's already a great addition to the department, but I think he'll do a great job in leadering the group, if that's a word, leadering, great leadering.
New words everywhere today.
All kinds of new words we're using today. That's great.
But I really appreciate the work he's doing. The procurement team really is a great team, and you may see Al from time to time. We have him working on an hourly basis. He's actually reporting to David now, so on a couple items that will be coming before the board. But is there any questions on the contracts report?
Any questions for Deb?
I don't know, did Al get any experience in replacing roofs here?
I texted him that during the hurricane.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I look forward to working with you, Dave. Welcome aboard, and, I
Yeah.
think if I speak for the whole board, I think we're excited that you're going to be working with you. Thank you so much. Look forward to it. All right, next item is item 5. Does any committee member have any other business before the committee that would like to speak? Anyone?
I do not.
No?
No. I think
Okay.
Henry, you had enough?
Googling testing.
More. That was good, that was good.
Settle down, Dave. Settle down over there.
All right, then the next item, our next meeting is November 20th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming out.
That was good, though.
Brad, great meeting.
Rainy. Yeah, Al said it's